What do you think of when you think about Bristol? People often say it's a multicultural, diverse city, both in terms of its people, its culture, cultural events, fashion, film and music. Some people say it's a city with two halves and has different identities. Others say it's a big city with a village feel, or a big city made up of smaller villages, each with its own distinct characteristics. Most people who live in Bristol recognise its access to green space and has the countryside on its doorstep. It also has a very young city population. One question governments and local authorities across the world have been asking: what stops people being active? What are the barriers? Whatever the reason, these are more prevalent in some areas of Bristol, and particularly where there are areas of high health inequality. One consistent finding in research that across the lifespan, residents of impoverished communities are at greater risk of mental illness, chronic disease, lower life expectancy, and higher mortality rates. The gap in life expectancy between the most deprived and the least deprived groups in Bristol is currently 9.9 years for males and 6.9 years for females. This gap has not shown any clear signs of reducing. Hello, my name's Nadia Holland. I'm a locality development manager for Inner City and East Bristol, and I work for the Bristol, North Somerset and South Gloucestershire Integrated Care Board. And for some people who are not familiar with what that means, that we are part of the NHS, and our role is to work more collaboratively across the sector with local authorities, statutory organisations, and working very closely with voluntary and community organisations. Our key aim is to work closely to improve the population's health. We're looking at health inequalities and what we can do to address the needs in our population. Locally, we've been looking at our work and how this integrates with the Bristol Active City Network, which we've been a part of for the last year. And it's been a golden thread through much of the work that we've been doing, looking at starting well, at prenatal, all the way up to the age of 25, ensuring that young people are living their best lives and seeing where physical activity can benefit them in both mental health and also their physical health. We've been thinking very much recently around what it looks like to live well in our population, and particularly in Inner City and East, what opportunities for people to be more active. And then that leads on to ageing well, where we're looking at what we can do to support those who maybe have long-term conditions. We're very aware that the benefits of physical activity on conditions such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and also in pain management, physical activity and the need to move is quite key here. And so being part of a wider network, it means that we can integrate some of those ideas into what we're delivering with the population. Our aim in Bristol has been to ensure that all Bristol citizens have the encouragement, opportunity and environment they need to lead active, healthy and fulfilling lives. By working collaboratively and cooperatively as a whole system, we will seek to transform attitudes and behaviours and make it easier for residents to move more, enjoy sports and physical activity and embed it into their everyday lives. Over the past year, our network has delivered a range of activities including workshops, training sessions and regular network meetings. These have provided opportunities to hear from a variety of organisations that make up the network, to learn about types of projects they've been delivering and how we can connect better with each other. We then developed collaboratively a theory of change model for our work in Bristol, which will make visible the steps we need to make to achieve our goals. This information and other documents about the network's meetings, previous presentations, reports and the realist evaluation and films are available on the SharePoint site. And now, I'd like to introduce you to some of the diverse organisations that form the network, to give you a flavour of some of the issues and conversations represented in the realist evaluation films.
I think collectively as individuals and organisations we've always come together as a type of network or strategic steering group or sports partnership in the past, but over the last 12 or 18 months we've been doing a significant piece of work in really starting to develop and grow and understanding the purpose of the network and what we are here to do as a collective in support of increasing physical activity opportunities. Really as a means to support collaboration, both within our own organisations but also externally.
For me, the purpose of any network is simple. You're trying to build connections, you're trying to build an understanding of what different organisations are working to achieve, and you're trying to work through to find common purpose. And for me, the Bristol Active City Network has been working very hard to do that over the last year. It is quite a mix of organisations that come at things from very different perspectives. You've got community organisations that are very much focused on their place and the people in their place, and being able to support those people not just through physical activity but a whole range of different activities and services, through to specialist sports organisations that are interested in delivering one sport across our patch, and they want to see that grow, their sport grow and evolve. But also I think there's recognition from all that are in the room that you have to work together to find some consensus and some compromise around how you interact in communities. There's no point just going and throwing activities on the ground if we've not had that understanding from those communities that it's something that's needed and wanted.
One of the big defining factors I think about the Bristol Active City Network is around this sense of bringing the city together. We've talked, and you've just talked quite comprehensively about the work that the Robins do. We've reflected quite a lot around BSF about what we provide. But the critical factor in all of this is that if we are going to make a sustained systemic change to the work that we do, and not just provide a sticking plaster but go really deep into the deep-rooted inequalities in the city, then we're going to need to think differently, and we're going to need to work differently, because actually everything that's gone before is great work and doing great things, but is it creating the shift that we need to create in order to really employ the principles of proportionate universalism and focus in on the most challenging communities across the city? And I think that's where the network has a real critical role to play to enable all of that to come together. Now that brings huge opportunity but huge challenge, because we're talking about working differently and thinking ever so slightly differently, and almost to a point leaving our organisational hats at the door and thinking much more systemically about what we do. And that poses quite a lot of challenge and a big shift in the way that we work, but it's important to engage in that.
I think you've got to have a piece where there are times where everyone in the whole network is going to be involved in stuff, and there's times where 5 or 6 organisations, or 3 or 4 over here, or half of the group are over here, and we shouldn't let the fact that it has to be done in smaller groups at times get in the way of actually making progress in around some of the issues.
I think there's been so many different times where different networks have been set up, and what I was keen when joining the Bristol Active City Network was that it wasn't going to be a talking shop, that it needs to be action. We're all so busy that we can't give up time to sit 3-4 hours if we can't see things improving and changing. So I think that it'd be great to have more opportunity to collaborate on different projects with people from the network. And making sure that it doesn't then turn into that talking shop, and that we see tangible action building on those small steps to try and get Bristol moving and active and working.
Since summer 2024, I've been part of Bristol Active City Network. I've been part of the workshops and the broader meetings. Joining the network has enabled me to connect with other organisations working in sport, health, physical activity, and build connections with individuals and organisations that we can look to work closer with, and also look at organisations and individuals who we could work better with. It's been an important network in terms of looking at ways to collaborate with different organisations.
Really sort of helped me to ramp up my knowledge and really get into the weeds in my role a lot easier and a lot quicker than I probably would have if it wasn't for it, and has helped me to really look at and address some of the issues and challenges that exist within the city in a slightly different way.
So it's really finding out what works for an individual, because there's no one size fits all, and it's seeing what would motivate somebody to get out there and do a bit of activity. So it does vary.
I think obviously parents are very vocal and will email feedback. They talk to the coaches. A lot of the coaches are mums already, so they're sitting at the like swimming lessons and things like that, and yeah, they will come up and talk to us. Obviously Stay and Play, they're in the cafe, so you can always go in the cafe and talk to parents if there's anything like that we need to research.
And do you do that?
Yeah.
Does it,
yeah, all
okay.
the time. Yeah.
Is that quite difficult? Initiating conversations?
No, they love talking about their kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Listening to the original meetings and the discussions that were going on, I had great difficulty in understanding how a private members club like ours would be able to fit in and help people do things. As the time has progressed and the number of meetings that I've gone to, listened to what other people have done, suddenly there was, I think some people might call it a light bulb moment, that I realised, yes, this is a network, this is going to help us. We are now part of something bigger. We're not sitting out here isolated on our own, we're part of a bigger group.
If you'd like more information about the network or to see more of these wonderful films, please check the links at the end.
Lack of daylight, no space, wasted time and running for the sun.